the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So everybody told me it was going to be better the second time around, so I'm going to count on that. Thanks again to Deacon Trilby and Mama Reed and Father Marasa for supporting me up here in the pulpit, and to all of you for your attendance and attention for the time that I'll be speaking today. I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to share this morning. I had some grand ideas about, how I was going to prepare my sermon. But then I realized, Patricia, you're new at this, and don't know how this will go, so let's just keep it simple. So that's what I decided to do. And I'm going to focus on the scripture I think that I'm connected to the most, and that is the gospel reading, Luke 13:10 through 17. And my message today is the healing touch. Right. The healing touch. So we read about this Jewish woman who had a spirit that had crippled her for 18 years. So she's described as being bent over and unable to stand straight. Now you all are going to help me with this sermon, so I want you to picture this woman. Get her image in your mind. Maybe that description reminds you of someone that you know. Can you see it? I wanted to focus on this woman and her crippling spirit. It reminded me of how I sometimes feel when I'm struggling, feeling forgotten and hopeless. More importantly, it reminds me of people that I deal with every day, people that I have interactions with every day. Like this woman, they have been long suffering and have stopped believing that their lives could be any different. How many of you have ever felt that way or have had a crippling spirit that burdened you? For sure, 18 years is a long time, and I'm certain that this woman feels that things are just what they are, and her life is one that she has to endure as best she can. It's really her faith that has kept her going. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Reminds me of Job and the scripture. Job 13, chapter 15th verse. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. We don't know this woman's name. It's not given. But that, for me, allows me maybe to insert myself into this scripture. Even though she's a woman, any of us might find this story relatable. We have to believe that this synagogue is her place of worship. She's a faithful, regular member, and this is the community that supports and cares for her. Now, on this occasion, she's been filled with lots of news and excitement of this Galilean preacher and prophet, Jesus of Nazareth. The people are talking about all of the things that he teaches and about how he healed sick people. Now that thought is with her as she enters the synagogue, just as she does on every Sabbath. On this day, however, I would imagine that she feels excited and hopeful. If all of these good things are true, maybe she will at least get something from the day's teaching that will give her comfort. Now, she's Jewish. She knows the doctrine and the laws of the Sabbath. I don't think that she could have even anticipated what was about to happen. She finds her place in the crowd, ready to receive a word. Can you see her in the crowd? I imagine her standing, maybe sitting, but because of her affliction, her inability to stand tall, her head is down. She's bent, she's bowed. We're told that it was something about her. Maybe it was that burdensome spirit that was a part of her heart. Whatever it was, in the midst of his teaching, Jesus sees her. And we're told that Jesus feels compassion. Now I'm going to stop here because I want to tell you that you should never think that God does not see you. He does. And he feels your sadness and understands your burdens. He's with you through everything. So this woman is unaware. I imagine that Jesus has to walk toward, maybe reach out to her to get her attention. He probably had to extend his hand, look down, and draw her gaze to him as he beckoned her to come. Come. She looks up. Imagine how she felt. Oh my, he's calling me. He's reaching out to me. When a group of us would walk on the lakefront, we'd often stop to admire the statue, which I recently learned has been moved away, of this large aluminum man. He's gazing toward the heavens. The title of that statue is Look Up. So I shared that because I want us to pause for a moment and say that sometimes when your burden feels extra heavy and you are bent down and feeling forgotten, you've got to look up. Look up. Say that with me. Look up. So back to our story. Her gaze was now focused on Jesus. Then it happened. Jesus said, "Woman, you are set free from your ailment." We're told that he laid his hands on her, and immediately she stood straight. Imagine that moment. Imagine her amazement, her joy, her sense of freedom and relief. 18 years is a long time to carry a burden. Imagine her expressing her thanks and praise. So not only this woman, but everyone who knew her shared her joy. The synagogue was overcome with excitement and amazement. Made me think about Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes to the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the name of the Lord. Jesus is a healer. Let's say that. Jesus is a healer. But we've got to be faithful. We've got to be present. And even though your burdens feel extra heavy and you are at your end, don't forget, you've got to look up. Freedom. Jesus gives us freedom. Now the lesson doesn't end here. While you're over there thinking out of the box, you're doing this wonderful thing, there's always that person that manages life by following all of the rules, okay? They live life synagogue who believes that healing, which he interpreted as work, should not take place on the Sabbath. Once again, Jesus shows us that he is our shepherd. He responds, "You hypocrites!" And Jesus goes on to observe that on the Sabbath, donkey and oxen are often untied and taken for water by their owners, the very members of the synagogue and leaders. Jesus defends his actions to leaders while making the point that it could only be appropriate for this woman, a daughter of Abraham, bound for 18 years, should be set free from her bondage. Jesus' perspective on the Sabbath as a day for deliverance and vindication is vindicated. We read that the crowd rejoices at Jesus' response, and the leaders are humiliated. The good news here, folks, is that there are no restrictions. Healing can happen on any day and at any time. As I've matured, I can reflect on many times when I found myself in a situation. Have you all ever had situations? Those where you didn't have a sense of how you could find your way out. The only thing that I could do was rely on faith and trust that God would see me and feel my burdens. Much of the time, it's not as dramatic as it is in this story. Most of the time, there are not a crowd of witnesses, but there's always a touch at your most desperate point. At that moment when you sigh, cry, or shout, "Lord, have mercy," you can raise your head, look up, and feel that touch, and the burden is lifted. You are set free. You've been touched by God. The words of a familiar hymn: shackled by a heavy burden, 'neath a load of guilt and shame, then the hand of Jesus touched me, and I am no longer the same. He touched me. Oh, he touched me, and all the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and then I know he touched me.